Good afternoon, and thank you very much to Freddie and your team for inviting us as the DTI to share with you, to share with the delegates, mainly about the new changes relating to BEE, and also what are some of the plans that we have as government, as the DTI, on issues of transformation and BEE. I think we should all be concerned that 21 years or so into democracy, we're still grappling with some of these issues. All of us should be concerned, government, business, interest groups, labor, etc., that we seem not to be making inroads in your sector and in other sectors. And I think it's high time that as one of the gentlemen mentioned, we need to come up with clear action plans to say, as an industry, what do we need to do to ensure that we transform the industry on all the 5 pillars of transformation: ownership patterns, the issue around control, skills, enterprise development, SMME development, etc., etc. There is a need that we, as the industry, you need to work together to ensure that transformation does happen. It was mentioned that, we have high inequality in the country, but there are also other socioeconomic development challenges that we need to address. And through programs and policies such as BEE, we can be able to address those. And of course, we are not saying that BEE is a silver bullet that will, will solve all our problems. It supports all other policies, all other programs, all other initiatives of government to ensure that we have a transformed economy, an inclusive economy. We need to grow the economy. I think that's the first priority, because you're not going to share a cake that is, being depleted. You need to grow the cake, but at the same time, you need to ensure that you share the cake, you share the pie. So BEE then is it's an economic transformation model, but also it supports growth. Of course, there is a business proposition around BEE. For a business person, the proposition that we put there, we're saying that if you transform, you are more likely to have access to some of the economic opportunities, either in the public sector or even in the private sector. If you don't transform, the stick is that you might be losing on some of the economic opportunities that you can access. But of course, the intention is not to penalize. BEE was never created to penalize anybody. We put the policy out there to say, as an industry, as a country, transform voluntarily. It's good for you as a company, it's good for you. It's good for the country, because if we have enough people that are skilled in the country, if we have ample opportunities for all of us. It's good for us because the companies will be growing. There will be less unemployment, there will be less crime, etc. Some of our social challenges that we have can be solved or can be dealt with if we, we implement this policy correctly. So I think that's the plea that we're putting forth as government, that let us not, we don't want 20 years from now to be talking the same thing. We should be talking about other challenges, not issues of transformation. There should be a time where we say that we have done. We're satisfied that what we wanted to achieve, we have achieved. Let us focus on other factors and other issues that may be. But until such time that we, we embrace the spirit of BEE and other transformation policies, we will keep on having these conferences, talking the same issues, skills development, enterprise development, etc. I'm just going to share with you the amended codes. As you know, from the 1st of May, about a week or so ago, we have the new amended BEE policy. We amended the policies for various reasons, to deal with issues of fronting. It's one of the disease that seem to be creeping in. So we had to amend the act in order to criminalize BEE fronting, and it has become even sophisticated. It's no longer the issue of taking a cleaner or a gardener and making him or her a director. It has become so sophisticated that it needs special attention. So that was one of the reasons to amend the policy. But also, we are not satisfied with the pace of transformation. We're still far ahead in terms of us achieving some of the targets that were set way back in 2003, way back in 2007. We're still way off. In fact, in certain areas, we are seeing a regress. So we have a big challenge. So we had then to amend the policy to tighten some of those areas where people were taking advantage and scoring high scores without necessarily doing much. You find a company that is a level 1 company. But when you walk into that company and say, what are you doing? What makes you to deserve a level 1? Because if you are a level 1 company, it should be able to show. When I walk into your company, I should not have questions to say, but how can you say you're a level 1 when your entire board, there's not even a single a black person on senior management. So those were some of the issues that we had to deal with to close some of those loopholes and gaps, to ensure that people start doing the right thing. As I said, our intention was never really around BEE to introduce or to bring a stick. We've always dangled a carrot, but then we had to bring both a carrot as well as a stick. I don't know how this thing works. Where do I press? Oh, this thing. Okay. I seem to be disadvantaged. Now, there is a constitutional mandate for BEE. As you know, we have one of the best constitutions in the world. And Section 9 of the Bill of Rights talk about the fact that as government, we can pass any policy or act, legislation, and other measures designed to protect or advance persons or category of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination. So the Constitution then recognizes the fact that we have a past, we have a history as a country, and that history is such that, you know, a certain portion of our population were disadvantaged. You know, we had, you know, industrialization as the country, but the industrialization that we had in South Africa was what somebody call a selfish industrialization, in the fact that it only favored 10% of the population. The 90% was excluded, only participated as labor, you know, etc. The 10% was really in the center of that industrialization in terms of being owners and also a controller of that industrialization. So the Constitution then recognized the fact that as a country, we have a legacy that we have inherited, and we will have to deal with it. The trickle-down effect, unfortunately, has not worked. There is a school of thought that says that if you grow the economy, automatically transformation will happen. I don't think so, because if you look at before the 2008 economic meltdown, the economy was growing at around 5%, but we didn't see, you know, the trickle down. We didn't see transformation picking up, you know, at that high rate. So the issue of trickle down effect, I doubt very much if it, you know, it will work. So we need then to intervene to ensure that, yes, as we grow the economy, but also we ensure that we transform the economy. So the new era of empowerment then, it's about ensuring that we industrialize, obviously, we create jobs, we skill. I think in this conference, skills was something that is being emphasized. We create black suppliers through supplier development, initiatives. So the old BEE of creating passive shareholders, you know, people who own shares but who play golf, who doesn't even know what's happening in companies. They've never been, you know, even being, you know, visited a factory, but you are a shareholder. I think that kind of empowerment is not going to work. We want active shareholders, people who understand and who know what is happening in company, so that we in the process we build capacity, so that those people, if they decide later on to sell their shares to realize profit, they can be able to go out there and create their own companies, or even mentor other black people, so that they can also fully participate. So the passive shareholding BEE is not going to work. We need to ensure that we create active shareholders. We need to create what we call black industrialists, people who understand what is going on at factory level and not just play golf. So the reorientation of BE then is about ensuring economic growth and development. We'll emphasize that we need, yes, we recognize that we need to grow the economy. That is very important. As I said, you cannot share something that is shrinking. You need to ensure that it's growing, so that there's enough for everybody. BEE should be about operational excellence. We want to see world-class successful BEE companies that can compete with anyone in the world, that can be able to supply anyone in the world. Competitiveness, inclusive growth, productivity, and industrialization. So that is what BEE, the new BEE, should be about. It's not about tenderpreneurs. I don't know why people think tenderpreneurship and BEE. I don't know the link. I'm not sure about that. And also, BEE is not about handouts. We're not saying black people should go out begging. No. It's not about giving handouts, etc. It's all about creating opportunity, ensuring that opportunities are being extended to the deserving people. If I'm Jacob, I know nothing about business, I shouldn't even attempt to say I'm a businessman. Maybe I'm a good policy maker, so be it. Somebody's a good CEO, somebody's a good whatever. So we need to look at it, in that way, that with BEE we are not saying that everybody's going to be a millionaire. No. That's not about. That's why we have those 5 pillars, and they're intended to address specific issues, specific needs, depending on where you find yourself on the chain. Now, getting to some of the material amendments of the Act. We have aligned the Act and the codes in terms of elevating some of the definitions that were in the codes into the Act. We have introduced what we call a trumping clause, which comes into effect on the 1st of November. What the trumping clause is saying is that if there's any okay, let me put it this way. The trumping clause seeks to harmonize all transformation policies in government, such that there shouldn't be any contradiction. And the Act is clear that if there's any contradiction between whatever policy and the BEE Act, then the BEE Act shall trump that policy. If there is a contradiction, only on BEE matters, not on. So if you have an ICASA Act as an example, defining BEE in a way that is not consistent with the BEE Act, in terms of what the Act says, that then the Act shall trump that particular Act. That is why then you see most of the policies are being aligned to ensure that they are consistent with regard to definitions and the principles around BEE. The other thing is that we are creating a BEE commission. This commission will be like a watchdog, will be monitoring implementation of BEE, ensuring that there is information flow, but also dealing with the issue of fronting, the investigation of fronting. So the commission will have enough capacity to be able to, for example, investigate if there's any fronting matter around BEE. We have also introduced offenses and penalties and prohibitions for fronting. So if you are found to be involved in fronting as a company, you can be fined to the tune of 10% of your turnover, and also you'll be blacklisted in government. You'll be prohibited from doing business with government for a period of about 10 years. A natural person can be taken to jail if you have been found to be, if you are a director of a company, for example, you can be taken to jail if you are found to have been involved in a fronting activity. The other issue that is important is that the issue around the sector code, that if there is a sector code in your sector, then you will use that sector code to be measured for BEE compliance. And then sector companies will report to sector charter councils on an annual basis with regard to progress that they are making on BEE. Listed companies will also report to the Commission on an annual basis with regard to progress that they are making around BEE. Now, with regard to the codes, remember in the old code we had 7 elements. Now we have 5 elements: ownership, management control, skills development, enterprise and supply development, and socio-economic development. We have merged the employment equity with the management control. We have merged procurement and enterprise development, and the new element is called enterprise and supplier development. Now, out of the 5 elements that we have identified 3 to be what we call priority elements. That's ownership, skills development, and then the enterprise and supply development. And we have introduced what we call the sub-minimum requirement. So, in other words, on an annual basis, when you get measured, if you fail to meet the 40% sub-minimum on either one of those 3 elements, the 3 priority elements, then your level will be discounted. Let's say you get measured, you come up at a level 4, but because you failed to meet the 40% score for each of those 3 elements, then you will be discounted to a level 5 BEE status company. This applies to the large entities, those whose turnover are 50 million and above. For the QSE or the medium size, those whose turnover is between 10 and 50 million, the priority elements are 2. Ownership is compulsory. Then you can choose between the skills development as well as the enterprise and supplier development. The principle around discounting also apply. If you fail to meet the threshold, the 40% threshold, you will be discounted. So these are the turnovers, the threshold for exemption and for compliance. So if your turnover is 10 million and below on an annual basis, you'll be exempted from BEE compliance. You do BEE by choice. If you have the resources, you can do it. You get automatic level 4 if you are a white-owned company. You get automatic level 2 if you are at least 51% black-owned, and then you get a level 1 BEE status if you are 100% black-owned. If you are a QSE, meaning that your turnover is between 10 and 50 million, then you are expected to do all the 5 elements, but your scorecard is not the same as the generic scorecard. Large entities are those that are 50 million and above. They have to comply with the generic scorecard. This is the different levels. The green part is the new one. The pinkish part is the old qualification level. So if you score 40 points or less, you are a non-BEE compliant company. But if you score, let's say, between 40 and 55, as per the green column, you will be a level 8. Level 1 means that you have got 100 points or above in terms of the BEE scorecard, etc., etc. So, if you want to see whether you are doing something about BEE, you should at least be at around level 4, going up. Anything below level 4, it means that you need to pull up your socks. Because if you look at the level 4, if I'm doing business with you, if I'm procuring, let's say I'm procuring microphones from you, and you are a level 4, if I spend 1 million on you, that 1 million in terms of the BEE recognition will be the entire 1 million will be recognized. As you can see, the last column on your right, level 4, the BEE recognition level is equivalent to 100%. But if you are if I procure from a level 5 company, for example, and I spend 1 million on them, my 1 million will not be recognized. The entire 1 million will not be recognized. Only 80% will be recognized. So it will be in my interest then to do business with companies that are at least level 4 up to level 1, because whatever rand I spend on them, it's either it's equal to the same value, or it's even stretched. So if I procure goods from a company that is a level 1, if I spend 1 million, that 1 million become 1.35 million, because I'm procuring from a company that is transformed. So this then, we hope, is one way of ensuring that companies choose to do business with companies that are transformed, even in government, so that we give preference to companies that are transformed when there's an economic opportunity. This is the amended the scorecard for the large entities. As you can see, the ownership target is still 25%. The target for management control, it varies from 50% to 88%. The 88% will be for the junior level, 50% will be for the board participation and top management. So we're saying that if your top senior managers and senior top and the board members, at least half of them should be black people as a target. Then the skills development, the target there is 6% of payroll. You spend, for you to be fully compliant, you need to spend 6% of your annual payroll on skilling black people, either as for internship, those that are at junior level, training them so that they can have the skill to be at senior management. I think a lot has been said earlier to say that the industry is struggling to employ people at senior level. So here's an opportunity to use that then to ensure that you have people that can represent at senior and top level. Then the fourth element, enterprise supplier development. The target for preferential procurement is 80%. In other words, 80% of your total annual spend should be BEE compliant. Then the next target is for supplier development. It's 2% of your net profit after tax. In other words, 2% of your net profit after tax should be spent on developing your suppliers. And then the last one is ED, is enterprise development. 1% of net profit after tax needs to be spent on developing the enterprises, not those that are not necessarily your suppliers. So we have differentiated between supplier development and enterprise development. Supplier development is for your own suppliers. In other words, people that you have a transaction relationship with, you procure goods or services from them. Enterprise development, it's anybody who's not necessarily your supplier. It could be that you are developing somebody in another sector, not necessarily to procure from them, but just to develop them because you have identified that there is a need. The last element, the socio-economic development, which is more or less equivalent to corporate social investment. It's 1% of net profit after tax spent on community projects and other activities that are mainly focused on rural areas and areas that are marginalized. The scorecard for the medium-sized entities, these are those that are making a turnover between 10 million and 50 million. As you can see, the target are less compared to the generic one, the one for the large entities. The ownership target is the same. Management control, more or less the same, but the skills one is less. It's 3% of payroll. Then for enterprise and supply development, the procurement target is 60%. The supply development is 1%, and then your enterprise development is 1%. And of course, the socio-economic development is also 1%. Now, in conclusion, I think the issue of transformation, as I said, is a collective responsibility between the public and the private sector. Government cannot do it alone. The private sector cannot do it alone. We need each other. We need to work together as sectors, but also as the government and the private sector to transform the economy to ensure that there is inclusive growth. There need to be paradigm, shift and also commitment to transformation. Shouldn't be about a tick box approach. Should be about embracing the spirit and the intent of what transformation, what BEE it's all about. And I'm sure if you do the right things, the score will speak to itself. We need to create the symbiotic relationship between especially the large entities and the small entities. Big players such as Gearhouse, they need to go out there and identify small SMME suppliers that can be able, identify within their value chains. What are those opportunities that can be extended to, especially the SMMEs? We need those symbiotic relationships. You'll find them in areas like Japan, where companies like Toyota, if you look at who are the suppliers, you'll find that it's SMME. Somebody supplying them with seats, parts, seats, etc., etc. We need those kind of relationship. I think in South Africa, for some reason, we seem to be allergic to small businesses. I don't know. We think small business it's like a problem child. I don't know. We are allergic for some reasons to small businesses. But I think we need to start. There's no economy that can thrive if you don't look after your small businesses. That's why now in government we have the department, the ministry that will only focus on small businesses. But also in the private sector, we need to have that mindset change that, small businesses are useless. Okay, so we need to have ensure a radical approach then to ensure implementation in order to achieve higher economic growth. Thank you very much.